almost in daily, if you can't do daily, weekly increments, entering those expenses, adding them up, and you need to have a monthly P&L done by the 5th day of the following month. If you're not doing that, you're not doing your job. And that's part of how I used to evaluate companies, where if their accountant wasn't quote unquote closing the books by the 5th day of the following month, I knew they probably were hiding stuff or didn't really know what was going on in their cash. So Jeff and Logan, I know I just flew through that. Where do you think gaps are where people may not understand, or what questions do you have about the basics?
I'll be honest, I really understood it. I think that any book you read on business that talks about you getting entrepreneurship talks about a P&L now. You just have to understand it. It gives you eyes by business. I harp on you about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing that I get, it's a pain in the ass. But without it, you don't really know what your company's doing.
Well, I think that was a great point you brought up. You're like, even if you're a one person with 2 clients, like it's still something, because and it makes sense what you're saying. It allows you to think about with more intentionality about the steps that you're making versus just kind of randomly shooting.
I know how, and this will sound weird, because I'm in more of the health coach space, I've literally seen in my 19 years health coaches who don't even know their client books, couldn't even tell you the number or the dollar amount or the day that those people are due or anything. It's very odd to me. I'm like, no wonder you don't really do good.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Or
100%.
you have nothing to measure by it. P&L gives you a chance to measure.
That makes sense, and it's also like you're saying about it, you're not doing your job. It's like when you think about it, I'm like, yeah, it seems like that'd be pretty. I heard something recently that was like, something is genius when it's said if it seems self-evident, but you'd never thought of it before.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is once you see it and you see the benefit of it, it changes the way you manage your business. So if you have 2 clients and you're going to add 2 more and you understand the difference between a fixed cost and a variable cost, you can predict really, really well exactly what it's going to do to your bottom line. If you don't understand that, you're guessing how much money you're going to make. If you understand that, you absolutely can get there.
In your P&L, you should put a fixed part about for your taxes too. And I have, because the reason I have that is written into, eventually this method works. You can have all these different accounts. One thing I think that every small business owner needs to have is one of these accounts for taxes.
Yep.
You're going to get hit in the mouth at some point with something you don't expect, and it's going to hurt. And if you got a little money there, it doesn't hurt as bad. And I think as business owners, we tend to get everything first, and then we don't understand that there still is a payback to come back at the end of the road. And that helps manage that and ease that burden and goes along with what you're saying when you look at fixed costs. Like, you really need to think about that too.
Oh, yeah.
So I know you're about to move on. The only question about like what you actually said there, this may be the next thing, but you were talking about how much bigger of a difference it makes if you get the variable cost down. So how would you go about something like that? Be situational probably. Yeah.
An example would be, let's stick with membership at the gym. Let's say that every new member that comes in the door, you have those fobs, so you get a deal. And maybe you're buying, let's say, each fob as they come in, and you try and do some sort of bulk ordering to get that cost down.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
You know that you're going to carry a little bit of extra inventory for a short period of time, but when you extrapolate that over the year, you save money. Things like that, where now your cost, rather than buying each fob at $1, is maybe 50 cents. And although you put a little bit more money in at this point in time, when you extrapolate that over the year, you saved 50 cents per member.
Right. And then the whole key is getting the profit up rather than and cutting costs is the same thing as making more money. Right?
It is. I mean, cutting costs is just as important as getting your sales up, especially when you're first adopting this. If you're an established business and you didn't have that focus on expenses, then you absolutely need to do it. Another big one that I see all the time is these people start a small business and they'll go out and they'll be like, well, I need a $55,000 truck or, a $70,000 truck because I can take a loan against the business. It's like, the hell you do. You don't need that truck, because now you're getting 10 miles to the gallon driving an F350, that you don't need. Like, all right, let's get rid of the higher gas cost. Let's get rid of that truck and get into something that's 15 grand that's going to do the job just as well. And on a side note, if you pull up to someone's house to perform a service in a $70,000 truck versus a little $15,000 to $20,000 one, which one do you think they're going to tip more?
The one that probably needs it more?
Yeah. Absolutely. They're going to look at you with a $70,000 truck and be like, forget this guy. And I can almost promise you that guy with the cheap ass truck is probably doing better.
So with the like an unnamed individual from earlier that we were describing, like that wants to portray the first thing because they think that that's what you're supposed to do, and it gives them credibility to pull up in a $70,000 truck.
Yeah.
You're basically saying that's complete. That's nonsense, basically.
Yeah, show me any study that does that, and just think common logic and say, if someone shows up at my house in a $70,000 truck and they're trying to charge me twice what the other guy's charging me,
Right.
why would I do that? Because they have higher fixed costs. They can't make as much profit per job.
Right.
Why would I ever do that? I see it especially in really small businesses that are franchised, where the franchise will say you have to have, a vehicle that's no more than 3 years old in this crazy wrap. And then I got Joe the plumber down the street who shows up in a pickup truck who'll fix it for $150. And that company's trying to quote me $400. Like, forget you guys. Don't tell me that like you somehow have a better knowledge than this guy who's been doing it himself for 20 years because you have a fancy truck. Like, he has good Google reviews. That's good enough for me.
And that comes back to like authenticity and being genuine stuff we were talking about earlier. But anyways, I'll get so curious. I'll go forever. But
if I see my financial advisor driving a Porsche, which I don't have one, I manage my own. So that's a bad example. But if you showed up and your financial advisor was driving a Porsche, he's like, yeah, we're charging you 1.5% on your portfolio. You're going to say, what the hell? Like, you're not worth that. You're not doing anything. You're just a sales dude, and it's all computer programs on the back end, which, newsflash, everyone, I'm exposing the financial industry. They all use the same damn models. But they'll convince themselves they're worth that. They aren't. They absolutely aren't. And it's just like, if you're getting a portfolio managed and you're paying over 1%, no one's worth that.
Dude, I'm over here thinking like opposite. I'm like, fuck pulls up at Porsche, like, hell yeah, he knows a thing or two about this, baby.
He knows a thing or two about getting money out of your pocket into his.
I know.
So is that a learning moment that you say
mean,
don't look into, like, don't prioritize those things as like if you're meeting with that person, right, and you see him pull up and like, oh, like, it's kind of a learning thing that you're trying to say to people, like, listen.
As far as business is like, people go into business thinking like, in Jim's example, I'll use this because it's easy. I need the best equipment to win. I didn't have the best equipment. You knew that. Right. I chose to double down on cleaning and other things that I could control. Yeah. And then through that, I amassed the wealth to buy the nicer things.
Right.
And I think that's what he's getting at. Like, if you look at blue collar, I'll be honest, like, when someone shows up in like a big, enormous truck that like looks like it's been lifted and everything else, I'm kind of like, all right, I hope you're going to do some amazing work for what you got there. I better be very impressed. And that's honestly not the case. The best work I've ever seen was by my buddy's crew who showed up with these beaten up Nissan Frontiers for 2000. Crushed it.
Yeah, and that's really all it is. It's people trying to portray an image.
Exactly.
Why are they trying to portray it? Well, I want people to think I'm successful. Well, doesn't matter what people think. You can be successful. Honestly, I would argue you're probably more successful. You have more money, more tucked away. You're not getting more jobs because you have a nicer damn car.
Like, you said something yesterday.
It just doesn't work like that.
I think it was yesterday. You're like rich people master the art of looking poor.
Yeah,
and poor people like master the art of looking rich. Basically.
Yep.
That's a really good thing to think about. You see like some of those CEOs walking around in like fucking hoodies. Like, I've seen memes about that stuff all the time. Like the rapper with the $150,000 chain standing next to the CEO that's worth $2 billion. Who's got like a hoodie and a sweatpants on going to Starbucks or something.
That's exactly it. And that's where these business owners get out of control, is they think, oh, I had a good month, I should go out and buy this. And it's like, all right, well, you just locked yourself into 6 years and $1,000 a month that you're losing, that you now have to make up somehow. Is that truck really going to make it up? No, working your ass off is going to make it up.
I live lean for a long time, and I still live lean. I draw a very low salary.
Yeah.
And I live within that. I think that that's something that business owners should do, because I could tell you that if I lived even maybe $2,000 more a month than what I could, I probably have very different outcomes in business. And I think that people are so quick the moment they get the reward. And this is what Profit First teaches you. Once you see a bigger view, this is what changed for me. It made me really go, oh, so there's like, this really covers a lot of things for me that I no longer have to worry about. And that's what I wanted more than anything. It made it so simple for me.
Yeah. And it's usually a moment like that, some sort of clicking that says, and yours was sitting there at Arte and hearing Ed Milet speak. I never really got out of control as an adult. And the reason being is my first job out of college, I made $200 a week, and they let me eat out of the cafeteria at a not-for-profit camping conference center down in Texas. I lived in this little double wide with scorpions running around on the floor. Like, it was not a nice place as far as where we lived, but it was a fun job because I liked the people I worked with, but I made no money. And then went and worked in South Carolina, and once again, made no money. But during that time, I adopted a dog. I took the dog back home to Indiana, took a job in Indiana. Dog got super sick. I had $5,000 I had managed to scrounge together in a year and a half and save up. And then I had also bought a car, which same car I drive today, I bought back then when I had no money. That's the irony of it. But my dog got sick. I dropped $5,000 into trying to cure him. Didn't work. Had to take out another $10,000 in loans to try and cure him. Didn't work. He still passed away. And I was $10,000 in debt with a dog that was I got him when he was 6 months. He died when he was a year old. That, he passed. So I have no dog now. I have this car payment. And at that point, I was like, all right, I don't understand what I'm doing with money. I have all this debt. I think I bought my car for like $19,000 back in 2011, which was a lot of money to me.